I do worry about all of our children. As we know, now social media is the centerpiece of our lives. Our culture has gotten too mean and too rough.
That was Melania Trump.
Now, folks, that was Melania Trump, and excuse me, I'm going to give her a major pass and not really jump up and down on her with both feet. Let me just say that the speech that she gave rang kind of hollow, given the fact that she claims that one of her priorities is going to be dealing with cyberbullying, and the biggest cyberbully resides in her house. I'm also going to give her a pass on the fact that she worked illegally for about 8 weeks while she was, I'm assuming, applying for a visa, a work visa in the country. I'm going to give her a pass on all that. You know, that really, that's not that big of a deal. And I'm not into attacking spouses. Now, you know, if you want to turn it around and say Bill Clinton, yeah, Bill Clinton did what he did, and if you want to say whatever you say about him, that's fine. What I am going to basically highlight is the guest on this particular show. Her name is Donna Rice, and she literally has a history of screwing Democrats. Her history goes back to Gary Hart. I'm sorry, I forget his first name anyway. You're going to get that information in the video. And she basically screwed and told. Here's the clip, and there are some points that I'm going to agree with her on, but there are some points that she's basically, in my opinion, out to lunch on. And I'll let you know which ones they are.
Speaking Friday, saying ending social media bullying would be her focus if she became First Lady. Joining me now, Donna Rice Hughes. She is now president of Enough is Enough, an internet safety advocacy group, and a Trump supporter. And welcome back to the broadcast. We last spoke in the build-up with the last election, so it's good to see you again.
Excuse me.
I do want to remind our viewers, you came to national prominence certainly back in 1987 when Gary Hart's presidential aspirations ended there in the primary season because of a snapshot of you and him.
Yeah, and she was screwing Gary Hart. Okay, and when that snapshot came out, she basically kissed and told.
Let's fast forward to today. Donald Trump has been caught on tape making some lewd comments, and about a dozen women or so accuse him of inappropriate behavior. He denies all the accusations. Why do you think he is still standing? What do you think the difference is in terms of the temperament between 1987 and now?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, we have seen so many scandals each election cycle. So I believe that, for one, the American public has gotten used to some of this, unfortunately, I would say. But we also now have a situation where there's not a perfect candidate. And
Now, on that, I will absolutely 100% agree. Donald Trump damn sure is not a perfect candidate or anywhere near it. And Hillary Clinton, she's got a bunch of negative things in her own history that, you know, I really don't want to ride with. So, yeah, in that regard, you know, she's right. But now watch how uneven she is as far as her dissection of each of the candidates.
people on both sides are going, yeah, you know, the Clinton supporters, well, she may not be exactly, you know, what I would hope for, but she's what we've got. And some of the Trump supporters feel the same way. And of course, like you said, Donald Trump did apologize and ask for forgiveness for things he said.
That is not necessarily true. He did not apologize to the American people for his comments. He supposedly apologized to his wife and his family, but we don't know that that's a fact. That's what has been reported by Donald Trump, but we actually don't know if he apologized to his family. And I would render to say that it might have been more important that he apologized to the American people for those comments. But Donald Trump has not apologized for a single thing throughout his campaign. So, no, Don, I'm not riding with you on that one, that he apologized. Okay, you're basically trying to throw a large tent over something that basically all you need is a little scooper as far as Donald Trump's apologies are concerned.
I believe we're indefensible, and so does his wife, and so does his daughter. But we also have Secretary Clinton, who is under an ongoing investigation for criminal activity, and there's evidence of corruption. So,
okay, yes, and that is true, but it's an investigation, okay? She hasn't been charged with anything. Donald Trump's words out of his own mouth condemned him. So just because somebody's being investigated doesn't mean that they're guilty. But apparently any investigation, as far as you're concerned, does mean that the person is guilty, and she is not being investigated for corruption. That is a Fox News slant.
So again, I think it's important for the electorate, and that's really who I'm speaking to, those undecided voters that are not clearly in one camp or the other, to look at not the personalities, but the trajectory of each party. And look.
So the personalities don't mean anything to you, because obviously Trump loses that fight. So now you're talking about the trajectories of the parties. This is not about the parties, okay? This is not about the parties. But if you really want to look at the trajectory of the parties, the Democrats are going to pick up additional seats in the Senate and in the House. So I would call the trajectories of the party plus for the Democrats.
Look at those platforms, because sometimes it's so hard to discern everything with the media bias that's going on. So what's your worldview, and which way do you want this country to go? For me as a conservative, I believe in a government for the people and by the people, not ruled by elitists in Washington and the establishment. That has not been working very well.
How about a country that would be ruled by a aristocrat, which for all intents and purposes is Donald Trump? He wants to rule like he's a king and not an executive.
Another thing that's really key, a president serves only 4 to 8 terms, but
I think that's 4 to 8 years, so she missed that one.
This president will appoint up to 3, maybe 4 justices who will serve an average of 30 years. That's going to have a generational impact. You know.
Right, the same way that after Lyndon Johnson screwed up and didn't appoint a Supreme Court justice, and he allowed the Republican successor to come in and name a justice, the Supreme Court has been conservative ever since. So you're talking about from 72, I believe when Nixon came in, all the way up to now, actually. So you're talking about the 43 years of a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. It's about time that that Supreme Court got reversed.
You look at your own worldview and then you measure it against the philosophy of these 2 different candidates. They're 2 entirely different trajectories for this nation.
But during these 4 to 8 years that someone is office, President Obama made an interesting point, and he said while out on the campaign trail for Secretary Clinton, of course, he said, look at character. And the fact is that when you're in the White House, a spotlight, a brilliant spotlight, is shined upon that person. We've seen the way Donald Trump has reacted. Knee-jerk reaction, sometimes cruel, sometimes lewd. You know, he's thrown out a lot of vitriol on the campaign trail. I don't think you'll deny that. So you say that you look at someone's personality, but doesn't character reflect someone's personality? Aren't you concerned about that?
I do. I am very concerned about that, and like I said, I think we have 2 flawed candidates. We've got a candidate like Trump who often puts his foot in his mouth, and he says that he regrets many of the things he says off the cuff. But then you've got a Hillary Clinton who appears to be presenting one face to the public and saying other things in private, even.
Yeah, like all politicians don't do that. Really? You really want to go there?
With what the email investigations have shown, and she's already called half of the American public deplorable.
Okay, and there we go with the second talking point. She did not call half of the American people deplorable. She started off by saying half of the Trump supporters are deplorable, and that is not half of the American people. And then she walked that back.
And indefensible. So, I mean, I don't think that you can really say one is worse than the other. Certainly can't say Trump is any worse for that.
Yeah, you can say Trump is worse since Trump is a misogynist, he's a racist, he's a xenophobe, and he's a woman abuser. Yeah, I think that's kind of worse than somebody being under investigation for making a mistake about having a private server, and even though that server may or may not have been exposed to hacking. I think the personality of that self-proclaimed woman abuser who talks with a potty mouth, I think that is a little worse.
And then these kinds of things that we already know that Hillary Clinton has done. But again, I think the focus on the Supreme Court, and for me, as a conservative, I look at who Trump has surrounded himself with. Mike Pence, really.
I really don't want to go into Mike Pence, but Mike Pence is one of these holy rollers, and to be quite honest with you, I think he's got a racist tinge in his personality as well. I refer you to the fact that a person that was convicted of a crime in Indiana, okay, served approximately 20 plus years, was found to be not guilty, okay, basically got a new hearing where the charges were dismissed, but in order for his record to be expunged, Mike Pence had to issue him a pardon, okay? And why that is, you got me. But Mike Pence turned around and told that person that he needed to seek redress in the court system. Just so happened that the guy was black. Just my opinion.
Smart people that love this nation, and then the people around Hillary Clinton, many of them are also being investigated for corruption and obstruction of justice and all kinds of things. So it is a confusing time.
But he's also
And it's a
surrounded himself with
difficult time.
Steve Bannon, who's running his campaign in essence.
Well, Kellyanne Conway is running his campaign, and she is a wonderful person and a personal friend of mine.
Listen, Kellyanne's a great
and
person,
you've
but
got
Steve
a big
Bannon is not
process.
without his influence.
Yes. Okay, see, she wants to run past Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon's the runner, is the CEO, or was, he probably still is, the CEO of Breitbart, which is a white supremacist operation. She wants to skip past that, and I wish that the name Robert Mercer had been brought up, because Robert Mercer is funding Breitbart. Robert Mercer was running a super PAC that he had put Kellyanne Conway in charge of, and then I believe the guy's name is Steve Bossy. He took Kellyanne Conway's place. He folded both of those guys into the Trump campaign, and there is absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about the white supremacist leanings of at least two of the three. So yeah, look at the people that Donald Trump surrounding him with. Not to mention Rudy racist Giuliani and Chris Christie, who just had a bunch of his people convicted and getting ready to be sentenced for the Bridgegate situation. So yeah, let's look at the people that Donald Trump surrounding himself with versus the people that Clinton surrounding herself with. And yes, the laptop from Weiner is being looked at, and Weiner obviously is the husband of Huma Abedin, okay? But nobody's saying really anything about Huma Abedin other than this security situation with the laptop, okay? And Podesta, who is obviously a political operative. But I would damn sure want to match Podesta off against Mike, I believe the guy's name was Manford, who was the former campaign leader or the head of the campaign, who all of a sudden he dropped out of sight because his ties to Russia and the Russian mob. So yeah, let's look at the people that are being surrounded by each candidate.
That is true, but so is Podesta on the other side, and Uma Hamid. So there are all those issues, but I think you look at the team around them and you look at the trajectory. And for those who are undecided, are you better off? Really, are you better off? Another thing a lot of people don't realize, whoever comes into office, they are going to be appointing almost 7,000 people to run all the various agencies. So again, what is your world view? Are you more liberal leaning? Of course, are you more conservative? And are you better off? And then there's the Unaffordable Careless Act. I can tell you right now, my husband and I are paying $2,000 a month in premiums, and then that doesn't include the cost of drugs, which is ridiculous.
See, okay, now she threw that out. I'm assuming that she and her husband are making well above the line in order to go into the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act plans. So she's got private insurance. So now she's trying to say, just like Trump did a couple of weeks ago, that his people were having all kinds of problems with the Affordable Care Act and their coverages. And then it was discovered several hours later that 95% of Trump's people were covered privately under his organization. Same situation with this broad. So now she's going to come out there and lie about the Affordable Care Act affecting her. No such thing. She's lying.
It used to be a $20 copay. Now it's $500.
A $500 copay? Give me a break.
Prescription.
That last subject you bring up certainly would warrant an interview all on its own. I do agree with that.
Yes.
Donna Rice Hughes, thank you very much. Nice to see you again.
See, that's when you get these stupid Trump Kool-Aid swallowers that want to come on, and I don't see how MSNBC lets them get away with it, because this lady should have been raining all over her ass about lies she just told to a national audience. But as usual, a lot of these people on MSNBC, they don't like calling their guests out when they obviously are lying.